Out now from Kino Lorber is the 4K remaster of The Phantom, which hit cinemas back in the summer of 1996, starring Billy Zane as the Ghost Who Walks, and directed by Simon Wincer. Joe Dante was originally attached to direct the film in the early 90s, and he developed a draft of the script with Jeffrey Boehm. Dante and Boehm's script was originally tongue-in-cheek in tone, and when Paramount pushed the film back a year, Dante left the production, and he eventually ended up being credited as one of the executive producers. According to Joe, we were a few weeks away from shooting in Australia when the plug was pulled over the budget and the presence of a winged demon at the climax. A year or so later, it was back in production, only nobody seemed to notice it was written to be funny, so it was disastrously played straight. Many unintentionally funny moments were cut after a raucous test screening, and I foolishly refused money to take my name off the picture. So I'm credited as one of the zillion producers. Simon Wincer, who had been a fan of the character since childhood, got the job of director. Produced for the cost of around $50 million, it only recouped about $24 million worldwide. It hit US theatres in June of 1996, but UK audiences wouldn't get it until February of 1997. That's 8 months later. I can imagine many pirate copies were floating around, as it hit home video and LaserDisc in the USA 3 months earlier. Reviews at the time were very mixed. Some critics loved it and others hated it. Some praised the throwback nature of the film with its 1930s setting, its action sequences, and the performances, especially from Billy Zane and Treat Williams. Others felt it was dated and the premise of The Phantom was silly. Roger Ebert gave it a glowing review at the time on TV and in the press, saying he thought it was very brave of them to not modernise The Phantom, also adding it was one of the greatest looking movies he had ever seen. And on the Siskel and Ebert show, they got into a bit of an argument about its merits, with Gene giving it the thumbs down, not being impressed with The Phantom, and Billy Zane's performance. Over the years, the film developed a strong cult following, thanks to its success on home video and TV. With the popularity of Batman in 1989, many studios wanted to capture that success, with Disney's take on Dick Tracy trying to replicate Warner Bros.' marketing tactics of Batman, and didn't quite hit the landing. Disney tried again with The Rocketeer, that had bucket loads of charm, but didn't set the box office alight. Universal Pictures had a stab at it with The Shadow, that looked incredible, and it featured an amazing film score by Jerry Goldsmith, but many young comic book readers didn't know who The Shadow was, and the same was true for The Phantom, despite being popular in Australia and Africa. But the character wasn't mainstream anymore, and didn't have much of a global reach, and most teenagers only remembered him from the 1980s cartoon Defenders of the Earth, so Paramount Pictures had a bit of an uphill struggle to get many eyes on the film from their desired market of kids and teenagers. So like the other studios' attempts, it failed to get many kids to part with their pocket money to go see it. The LaserDisc would arrive in late November of 1996, a title I used to own but I gave it away to a friend not long ago, but I did cover it about 5 years ago in my LaserDisc collection video. The LaserDisc has no extra features, but it did include an explosive Dolby Digital 5.1 mix, and it was presented in widescreen. Widescreen Review magazine had covered it back in the day, and awarded it 4 marks for its THX certified picture, saying, "Colours are richly hued and vibrant with deep solid blacks and accurate flesh tones. Images are sharp and detailed, and contrast is outstanding. The picture is solid with no noise or artifacts. The Matrix surround track and the Dolby Digital option were equally praised for their sonic fidelity." The DVD would hit US stores in 1999 and in the UK in 2001. The DVD would be enhanced for widescreen TVs, so it was presented in 16:9, and it carried over the Dolby Digital track and featured a theatrical trailer. Ooh, exciting. The picture seems very reminiscent of the LaserDisc, with a similar display with the use of colour, but it has the benefit of being in 16:9. I found an old BBC review of the DVD and it was received well for its picture and sound, but viewing it now, the transfer doesn't hold up very well, and being a somewhat early title in the format's life, it doesn't take full advantage of DVD. The Blu-ray would arrive in April of 2010, and it would be issued in the UK as part of the HMV Premium Collection in November 2020. The HD upgrade is a big improvement over the DVD. This seems very much a new transfer. The image is far more detailed and richer in colour, but it does exhibit some artificial sharpening of the picture. It does look a bit too digital for my liking. This wasn't a new restoration with this transfer, it has some dust and dirt in places. The sound is great, however, and I think most people were happy with the upgrade. The Blu-ray would feature nothing on the disc, though the US release would feature a trailer. The UK version included a mini poster and 4 postcards to make it exclusive and premium, which is a lazy way to add something extra with little effort. So when it comes to the 4K Blu-ray, there is also a regular Blu-ray included of the new transfer. The Phantom was in desperate need of a new scan of the original 35mm print, and Paramount Pictures and Kino Lorber have done a great job with that. In many parts it does look fantastic, so much detail is on display. Simon Windsor made the right decision to shoot on anamorphic 35mm film, so the full 2:3:5:1 frame is fully restored, which has fantastic depth of field, especially with the on-location shooting, which looks incredible. But there is a bit of a problem with the HDR grading. There seems to be a reduction in colour and brightness. Everything seems a bit muted now with the colour palette. As I'm using an HDR to SDR conversion of the new 4K Blu-ray, the image I'm showing you is not a 100% true representation of what it will look like on your big 4K TV. On my 65-inch OLED, the brightness issue is not a problem, but I can't deny there is a feeling something has gone a bit wrong with the colour settings of this new Dolby Vision grading. If you look at the regular Blu-ray that comes with it, it's a 1080p version of the 4K, but it does feature the new transfer and the colours seem far more accurate. Either this was done by choice to have the HDR be slightly different, or what I think is more likely, there's been an error and it hasn't been properly QC'd by Kino Lorber. I never saw this film theatrically projected back in the day, so I can't say this new transfer is wrong and doesn't represent the original look of the movie, but if you look at all of the previous transfers, there is definitely more colour in the picture. Some websites have rated this new 4K full marks for its quality, but if you are very familiar with the Phantom, upon viewing this 4K, you will think something has gone slightly wrong. Maybe Kino Lorber will issue a statement about this and offer replacement discs, or will keep quiet and people will just accept this is how it looks now. You can manually just adjust the colours to appear more saturated, but I never find myself having to do that when watching other 4K discs. When it comes to the sound, there are two options, a DTS 5.1 mix and a 2.0 option. I tested both surround sound tracks and they do their job really well. The 5.1 mix was dynamic and punchy for the action scenes, and David Newman's fantastic score gets to shine and doesn't get lost in the sound effects. The 2.0 option was nicely balanced and should sound good through your TV speakers or soundbar. The extras on face value may seem a bit limited, but they are surprisingly detailed on the film's production. Sadly, it's missing the original 25-minute featurette, which no release has included. Having it on this release would have made it a complete package. What we get is an enjoyable commentary with director Simon Windsor, hosted by Douglas Hosdale. Simon still has a good memory and provides some great insight into the making of the film. There are 2 interviews included, which are on the regular Blu-ray. Bear in mind that disc is locked to region A. There is a 30-minute interview or so with Billy Zane, who goes into detail about how he got the part, his love for the comics, his training for the role, and his experience making the film. And he does talk about a sequel that has been discussed a number of times over the years. This interview is really good, and Billy comes off as a really cool dude, and for fans of the Phantom, this is the perfect special feature. And finally, we have a 15-minute Zoom interview with composer David Newman, who explains how difficult it was to score the film, saying it was a rushed production and his biggest challenge was to get the main theme sorted. His plan was to deliver a 1980s style symphonic score. The constant changes to the picture edit made it really difficult to complete his work, which he said he struggled to finish, so a bit of copy and pasting of the cues for the final action sequence had to happen at the last minute. He had created a love theme which doesn't really get fully used, as there was no place to put it due to the endless changes to the final edit, and only pops up briefly in the film for one scene and is thrown into the end credits. He felt the film didn't have many moments to breathe, so it could slow down for a bit. For an origin story film, it has a brisk runtime of 1 hour and 40 minutes. He said he has never worked so hard on a movie in his entire career. I covered The Phantom with one of my retrospectives 12 years ago, and I gave it a pretty positive review. I've always enjoyed the movie. Having a guy in a purple outfit running around the jungle isn't the best disguise, but it has the energy of an Indiana Jones film. I love the 1930s setting, David Newman's score is memorable and works wonders during the action. Billy Zane brings a lot of charm to the character. He has no padded muscle on him like Batman, it's pure Zane in that outfit. And the supporting players bring a lot of humour to their roles, with the original Buffy, Christy Swanson, who is very much like Lois Lane. We have Catherine Zeta-Jones, whose whole performance is acting like she's on the make, super horny throughout, and the late great Treat Williams hams it up a storm as Xander Drax. It's just a really fun movie. The whole origin story element is half-baked, however, and rushed at the beginning as the film just wants to get to the action. It does feel slightly compromised in places as they hacked it down to a required runtime, but the end result is just a fun throwback to the action serials of the past, and it looks fantastic, with brilliant production design, great cinematography, and a lot of in-camera practical stunts. The 4K Blu-ray is slightly questionable with this new HDR grade. We'll see if Kino Lorber respond to any complaints, but for now, if you are a fan of the Phantom, this new transfer, especially for the regular Blu-ray, is very impressive, and the little amount of extras are worthwhile additions. And it's good to see the Phantom, which is a very underrated film, get some love on the 4K format. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to click the like button and hit the bell to be notified of my latest reviews. Big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain access to exclusive videos and take part in Q&As, follow the link below.